Here are the top stories for today, November 4, 2019. President Duterte joins ASEAN leaders in fighting terrorism and other common enemies of the Asian region. The Supreme Court defends the issuance of search warrants against alleged fronts of the CPP and PA. Malacanang vows to ensure that aid efforts for victims of the earthquakes in Mindanao will not be derailed. And experience the battles of Bataan in augmented reality at the Mount Samat Shrine of Valor. Good day, I'm Ron Dulfo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story, President Duterte remains in Thailand as the ASEAN Summit comes to its last day on November 4. He joins other ASEAN leaders in strengthening regional cooperation. Benj Bondok with the story.
President Rodrigo Duterte and his fellow Southeast Asian leaders have agreed to address common enemies affecting their region at the 35th ASEAN Summit and related summits in Thailand. Malacanang on Sunday said ASEAN leaders are united in addressing issues such as terrorism, ongoing trade war, and South China Sea disputes. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations has been implementing measures to combat transnational crimes and terrorism, such as the Declaration on Joint Action to Counter Terrorism adopted in 2011. With respect to trade-related tensions, Duterte appealed to his fellow leaders to push for a strengthened economic integration. The trade war between the United States and China compelled ASEAN leaders to fast-track negotiations on the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, a proposed free trade pact among the regional bloc and its 6 free trade agreement partners. The ASEAN member states and China agreed that South China Sea claimants must observe a rules-based approach to avoid tensions in the busy waterway. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump missed the opportunity to tackle pressing issues with Southeast Asian leaders after he skipped the ASEAN Summit. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondok.
ASEAN leaders want to finish a binding code of conduct in the South China Sea within 3 years or earlier. The 10-country group made the joint statement for the 22nd ASEAN-China Summit held on Sunday, November 3, that was read by President Rodrigo Duterte. Presidential spokesperson Panello said the 10-member regional bloc said ASEAN and China should improve further discussions on political security. President Duterte reiterated his suggestion that ASEAN members must ensure self-restraint for the eventual materialization of an effective and substantive code of conduct. He called against land reclamation, militarization of features, and paramilitary actions. He pointed out that more than self-restraint, ASEAN leaders should be united in pushing for the conclusion of the COC. Meanwhile, the president said the region is also anticipating the implementation of the ASEAN-China trade area. Malacanang says the alleged harassment of a Greek oil tanker by a Chinese vessel near Panatag Shoal will not affect the crafting of the Code of Conduct in the West Philippine Sea. Presidential spokesperson Panello said the government has no plans to file a diplomatic protest because it does not involve a Philippine vessel. Panello, however, said he agreed with the remark of Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, saying the Chinese government must respect international maritime laws. Last September 30, the oil tanker Green Aura was heading to China from Thailand at 6 nautical miles off Scarborough Shoal when it was accosted by a Chinese warship. Filipino Captain Manolo Ebora was quoted saying that the ship ordered Green Aura to stay away from the disputed shoal and change the course. The warship then tried to block Green Aura before introducing itself as the Chinese Coast Guard and claimed jurisdiction over disputed waters. In other news, Malacanang is belittling the continuing efforts of critics to ridicule President Duterte. The statement was issued after Filipino blogger Loy Reyes Langicho, also known as the professional heckler, claimed that the president did not receive a soccer jersey during a ceremony with the ASEAN and football's governing body, FIFA, on Saturday. The tweet was posted days after an edited headline of the Thailand-based newspaper Bangkok Post claiming that the Thai king Maha Vajiralongkorn ordered Duterte to behave during the 35th ASEAN Summit. Presidential Communications Operations Office Secretary Martin Andanar presented a copy of the actual October 31 edition of Bangkok Post denying the incident. Presidential spokesperson Panello said this proves that the opposition seeks to embarrass the president at every opportunity presented to them. Despite the series of bogus news hurled against the president, Panello said he will remain popular, especially among his supporters. Meantime, more families are reported affected by the multiple earthquakes that hit North Cotabato last week. This as Malacanang ordered to ensure to no let up in sending help to earthquake victims. More on this from Janet Scave.
In Tulunan, North Cotabato, more than 37,000 families are affected by the magnitude 6.6 and 6.5 earthquakes last October 29 and 31. The NDRRMC on Monday said around 4,000 of these families are now being aided in 34 evacuation centers. As of today, 22 people were reported dead, over 400 injured, and 2 others missing, while nearly 30,000 infrastructures were damaged in Zamboanga Peninsula, Northern Mindanao, Davao Region, Soc-Sargen, and Barm. Meanwhile, the government vows to ensure that aid for residents affected by the recent series of earthquakes in Mindanao will not be derailed. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panello said those who want to provide relief goods for quake-affected residents should not be stopped. The DSWD says it has provided over 6 million pesos worth of assistance to nearly 30,000 families in quake-affected areas. For its part, the Finance Department is urging earthquake-affected areas in Mindanao to immediately submit damage reports to determine rehabilitation financing requirements. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III said the DILG and DSWD have funds and goods for immediate release for disaster relief. Other agencies such as SSS, GSIS, Philippine Guarantee Corporation, and Pag-ibig are also said to assist the victims. Meanwhile, the Philippine Air Force transported 17,000 pounds of relief items donated by various government and non-government agencies. It also transported portable water filtration units and other relief items coming from the Office of Civil Defense. It also conducted aerial reconnaissance on Saturday in Makilala, Cotabato, where over 90 families are believed to be stranded due to inaccessible roads due to landslides. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Still to come, the Supreme Court defends the issuance of search warrants against alleged fronts of the CPP-NPA. A mother in Negros Occidental slams the CPP-NPA for recruiting her 12-year-old daughter. These and more when we return.
Ngayong pong buwan, October 31, we will declare the most affected area, the ground zero, clear of the danger of bombs.
We have witnessed the last of the 260 bombs that we recovered, plus of course the other IEDs that our team from the National Housing Authority and the private corporation, the private developer contractor, that help us in the clearing of the most affected area.
Magsisimula na po ang ating rehabilitation proper after the clearing of all of these oxos and the ruins ay sa paghihintay po ng maraming tao ay ngayon po ay masasabi natin na magsisimula na po magpatayo ng mga infrastruktura na papakinabangan ng ating mga kababayan.
I can assure you that by December of 2021, tapos ang ating rehabilitation sa most affected area.
2 taon mula nang ideklara ni Pangulong Duterte na malaya na ang Marawi City sa kamay ng mga mauti ISIS. Sa ngayon, patuloy ang pagbabalik normal ng buhay ng mga kapatid nating Maranao sa tulong na rin ng Task Force Bangon Marawi. Para sa ating mga kabayan, sama-sama nating ibangon ang mas maunlad at mapayapang Marawi City.
The Supreme Court supported a Quezon City judge who issued 7 search warrants against front organizations of the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army in Negros Occidental. This after leftist groups asked the High Tribunal to sanction Executive Judge Cecilin Burgos Villavert of Quezon City Regional Trial Court Branch 89, who issued the search warrants. This led to the arrest of 57 suspected communists during the raids on the offices of Bagong Alyansang Makabayan, Kilusang Mayo 1, Nakpawis, Gabriela, and National Federation of Sugar Workers. SC spokesperson Brian Keith Hosaka said Villavert acted correctly and legally in determining the issuance of the search warrants. Hosaka said respondents who feel aggrieved should file a motion to quash either before the court that issued them or before the court where the cases are eventually filed. He said Chief Justice Diosdado Peralta immediately directed the court administrator to remind judges to be deliberate and prudent with the issuances of warrants. Philippine National Police on Monday challenged alleged communist front organizations to prove that pieces of evidence found during last week's raid in their offices in Bacolod City were planted. The joint PNP and military operation yielded a total of 32 assorted firearms, 3 hand grenades, 2 40mm grenade launcher, assorted live ammunition, subversive documents, and paraphernalia, while 40 ranking personalities of the CPP, NPA, and DF were arrested. 14 newly recruited CPP, NPA child warriors were rescued during the raid. The militant group said the pieces of evidence found during the raid were planted. PNP officer in charge, Lieutenant General Archie Gamboa, urged the groups to face the charges that will be filed against them and prove in court that the firearms found in the raid were indeed planted. He said the PNP has already established the link of these groups to the communist movement. Residents in Surigao del Sur joined the Philippine Army in condemning the 50 years of deception and killings perpetrated by the Communist Party of the Philippines and the New People's Army. Representatives from various sectors joined the 36th Infantry Battalion in a symbolic candle lighting done in time for the celebration or commemoration of All Souls Day on Saturday, November 2. These include former rebels, representatives from the youth sector, indigenous peoples, and the families and friends of those killed by the NPA. The activity was done to remember all the fallen heroes who perished in armed struggle of the CPP-NPA. The participants also condemned the atrocities committed by the CPP-NPA in the Caraga region. Among them was the abduction and killing of an IP-CAFGU member by the NPA in Lanuza, Surigao del Sur. The Army appeals to the remaining NPA rebels to lay down their arms and live in peace with their families and friends rather than wage war and die. In Negros Occidental, a laundrywoman did not expect that her 12-year-old daughter was among the 14 minors rounded up by authorities during a search operation at the compound of Bagong Alyansang Makabayan, Kilusang Mayo 1, Gabriela, and allied groups late Thursday afternoon. Nilda Villamonte said the authorities were able to locate her on Saturday and brought her to Bacolod to confirm if her daughter was among the detained minors. Villamonte said her 12-year-old daughter went to Bacolod around October 16 or 17 for a dance contest. She said her daughter started joining the activities of the progressive groups last year upon the invitation of a relative. This made her miss her classes and got failing grades. Her daughter would also say that they are practicing for a cultural contest in Bacolod and would be away for some time without telling her whereabouts. After reuniting with her daughter on Saturday, Villamonte said she is thankful that the people who were trying to influence and bring harm to her daughter were arrested. She calls on them to stop recruiting minors and urged her fellow parents to protect their children from these people. ASEAN trade ministers are expected to give a positive report on the proposed Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP. RCEP is a free trade agreement between the 10 ASEAN member countries and 6 trading partners, namely China, Japan, South Korea, India, Australia, and New Zealand. Once in place, this bloc will account for 1/3 of the world's output as it covers some 3.5 billion people. At the sidelines of the 35th ASEAN Summit and related summits being held in Thailand, Trade and Industry Secretary Ramon Lopez said 18 out of the 20 chapters of the proposed mega trade deal have been approved as of Friday, November 1. Lopez said India has not fully committed to the deal as it still has issues on the market access rules. Meanwhile, Lopez said Filipino farmers and manufacturers need not worry about the impact of the free trade deal since safeguard measures will be put in place. A young rebel in Agusan was saved by the Philippine Army after being abandoned in a firefight. 2 million pesos worth of shabu was seized in Dumaguete. Here's our report.
In Davao, the police regional office on Sunday said the observance of All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day was generally peaceful in the region. Police and armed forces of the Philippines personnel, together with force multipliers, have successfully served the public during the duration of the 2-day event, and checkpoints will still be conducted 24/7. Meanwhile, elements of 29th Infantry Battalion in Agusan del Norte saved a young guerrilla of New People's Army who was wounded in an armed confrontation. The rebel was abandoned by his comrades upon their withdrawal after the encounter with government troops on Saturday in Barangay San Isidro, Santiago. The young rebel said he was only 17 when he joined the communist movement and stayed with the group for more than 2 years. He was rushed to a nearby hospital for further treatment. In other news, more than 2 million pesos worth of shabu were seized on Sunday in Barangay Taclobo, Dumaguete City. The 2 suspects, identified as Chira Joy Libradilla and her alleged boyfriend, Kentford Cabriana, were arrested in a bypass operation by PDEA agents. Libradilla is tagged as a high-value target, while Cabriana is a newly identified drug personality. Libradilla said the shabu came from her boss in Muntinlupa, apparently referring to the new Bilibid prison. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Ruth Abigita Carlos.
Up next, experience the battles of Bataan in augmented reality at the Mount Samat Shrine of Valor. We'll be back after a few reminders.
Before this, not many may have known about the Tourism Act or how truly vital tourism is in nation building and its significance in improving the lives of every Filipino. That is why we embarked on a campaign titled The Tourism Decade, celebrating the rise of the Philippine travel industry with the Tourism Act of 2009.
With the Tourism Act, the travel industry is now heading its way to be the sweet spot of the Philippine economy. Through this law, we enabled our people, communities, and all other stakeholders see and realize the full potential of our tourism industry.
The word tourism represents the culture of tourism. We are very happy as Filipinos that we have that innate capacity to really be working within the tourism industry, because that is second nature to the Filipinos, to be really having that culture of tourism.
Tourism is a country undertaking Lahat tayo dapat mag-participate. Mayaman, mahirap pwede mag-participate. Mayaman, mahirap pwedeng kumita dyan. At dapat paglaban natin yung nakalagay doon sa batas sapagkat maraming magagawang infrastructure, maraming magagawang bagong tourism destinations or tourism enterprise zones para lumakas ang kita ng mga tao.
Paano kami natulungan ng Department of Tourism through the Republic Act? Actually, the concept of itong community-based enterprise. I am running the School of Living Tradition and Homestay. So, the more that they promote the homestay, the more that we also tie up with other people like yung mga habal-habal drivers, makakatulong din sa kanila, and those who are also engaged in handicraft, makakatulong din sa kanila. Kasi in every destination, for example, in South Cotabato alone, marami silang mapuntahan.
Nine Filipino crew members were kidnapped from a cargo ship owned by Norwegian shipping company JJ Ugland. The 9 people were taken off the bulk vessel while it was waiting to be unloaded off coast in Benin. While the company did not mention the nationalities of the hostages, Norwegian online newspaper E24 quoted a source of Norwegian Ship Owners Association as saying that they were all Filipinos. Ugland said its own crisis team was handling the situation and had contacts with relevant authorities. No information was available about any claim for ransoms. Smuggled pork products from China that were seized at the port of Manila have tested positive for African swine fever. The Agriculture Department says the pork products were tested by the Bureau of Animal Industry. The cargo, which was consigned to Janety International Trading in Binondo, Manila, were misdeclared as tomato pastes and food enhancers. The Philippines bans pork and pork products from China and 15 other countries hit by African swine fever. In sports, the US-based Filipino chess wizard Wesley is now a world chess champion. Stunned fellow Super Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen to win the first official global title in Fischer Random Chess Championship. Is currently on number 6 based on 2019 FIDE ranking. Who actually likes the Fischer Random Chess style, won $125,000 or about 6.3 million pesos for ruling the tournament. Unlike the standard chess game, the Fischer Random Chess game has the first-ranked pieces arranged in random form before the start of the game. Tourists can now experience an enhanced trip at the historical Mount Samat Shrine of Valor as it launched Thursday its Augmented Reality Enhanced War Museum. It is the first heritage site to offer such digital innovation in the country. This story from Lead Kabagani.
Mount Samat in Bataan is now the first historical site and war museum in the country that offers a 3D augmented reality feature. The augmented reality system was introduced through the partnership of the Mount Samat Flagship Tourism Enterprise Zone, the Philippine Veterans Affairs Office, and technology-based solution company Smart Reality Innovators. The first phase of the project includes the integration of computer-generated content and animation overlaid on the War Museum exhibit. The animation, which will be seen through an AR mobile application, provides facts and information about the World War II. The AR mobile app can only be downloaded inside a museum. The virtual reality system will be unveiled in the last phase of the project, while more AR codes and digital features are expected to be integrated in various facilities of the Shrine of Valor in the second and third phases. This full feature will be introduced to the public next year. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Laid Kabagani.
Here's another look at today's biggest stories. President Duterte joins ASEAN leaders in fighting terrorism and other common enemies of the Asian region. The Supreme Court defends the issuance of search warrants against alleged fronts of the CPP and PA. Malacanang vows to ensure that aid efforts for victims of the earthquakes in Mindanao will not be derailed. And experience the battles of Bataan in augmented reality at the Mount Samat Shrine of Valor. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, check our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government, how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags on all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Rom Dulfo. Good day.